Hi people, here I am again, trying to explain stuff from more than 10-year-old games. But my OCD and immense imagination had it bouncing off the wall, so I gotta do this, and I'll make it as sciencey as I can cause I love science.
Chapter 1 Introduction.
As we play Alan Wake, we find that the Dark Place is a separated universe from our own. Same goes for the Quarry and the slide projector thresholds in Control. In my previous lore video I said plane of existence when talking about Alice leaving the Dark Place. But plane of existence doesn't equal parallel universe, so I began to wonder. What kind of multiverse is the Remedyverse? I think we have enough information to build a case before I get to play Alan Wake 2. At the moment I'm capturing my playthrough of Control, but I already played that one, so I know what the story is. Just so you know, this is all highly hypothetical, so I am not going to keep it real. I am definitely going to play around with these theories to allow a bit of gamer logic to come through. So get ready with a few pinches of salt, you'll need them.
I'm crazy, but that's fine, Mary.
Chapter 2 The Theory.
I originally planned to actually take at least 3 different kind of multiverse, compare and contrast, do things in a more comprehensive way maybe. But for sake of simplicity, I think I'm just gonna go to the one that I think is the one that can explain what this multiverse really is and its nature. I think the Remedyverse is ultimately quantum. I'm choosing this multiverse because it is one of the very few ones that allow for different universes to overlap and interact. Most of the other multiverse theories don't allow this. Most times the universes cannot really touch, or they are separated by some kind of time or space or both that doesn't allow them to communicate.
Chapter 3 The Science.
As I mentioned, this multiverse is more of a conceptual thing because of the nature of quantum physics itself. Here there's no sure thing, all plays by probability. And from this probabilistic nature arises one of the most disturbing but also fascinating physics laws: particle-wave duality. This principle of quantum physics states that, until measured, all particles can be considered as a probability wave, with each point on the wave having a different chance to reveal the particle. When we measure the wave, all the probabilities of finding the particle collapse, revealing the particle and destroying the wave. One of the first experiments confirming the particle-wave duality was the double-slit experiment, where a beam of quantum particles was sent through 2 slits and detected on a screen behind it. The particle created an interference pattern as opposed to just 2 blurry patches behind the slits itself. They behaved like a wave, interacting with themselves to create said interference pattern. Okay, I know this was heavy. I know because I wrote it, and I know because I had to say it out loud, and yes, it was heavy. But I had to give you this kind of rough lesson about quantum physics because, by one of the interpretations of quantum mechanics, each and every possible outcome of any possible quantum interaction actually happens. The wave never collapses. Every outcome creates its own branching universe, diverging and evolving from that initial wave. And now we get to the part where, well, I explain what I have in my head, right? So, let's dive in.
I'm not wild about the idea myself.
Chapter 4 The Game Logic.
We know the dark presence is a type of wave, or better, the game is about light vanishing in the dark, and light is a wave. Photons are massless particles and obey all the quantum rules. In Control, the AC is clearly treated as a wave, it is described as a resonance, and Dr. Darling even measured its frequency. Same goes for Polaris and Hadron. So, bluntly put, if these resonances could synchronize and interact constructively with our universe's base wave, they would literally adapt to our base wave, allowing their presence on top of our universe. Of course, a bit of game logic is needed for this to be plausible, and I don't really like having to use my imagination when using scientific notions, but this is a game anyway.
And it was a fucking boring game.
The dark place, the words behind the slides of the slide projector, and even the astral plane are branching quantum universes that synchronize their base wave to ours, merging in a resonant, overlapping zone called a threshold, where both realities can coexist until the waves are uncoupled.
Chapter 5: The in-game proof.
Let's start with control cause it is the easiest to explain. First and most important, Dr. Darling theorizes this very connection.
Resonance is the key. Vibration, frequencies, waveforms, fields we didn't know were there. It's physics. These fields in complex interaction, altering reality that comes to contact with them.
As for the things we can deduce by ourselves, Jesse uses Polaris resonance to push these away. I can theorize Polaris' resonance and, by extension, Hadron's resonance are the negative of these. They interfere in a destructive manner with this base wave, literally deleting it from our reality, a bit like active noise-cancelling headphones mute the outside noise by producing a sound wave that literally cancels the noisiest one. The reason why Polaris' resonance does not fade away is because Jesse and Hadron are the source of their own base wave, while the his source is still on the other side of the slide projector threshold. The oldest house can disguise itself by literally bending light away, or maybe absorbing it. And its shifting environment is a big wink to the probabilistic nature of particles. Keep in mind the oldest house without harmonized quantum points is literally described as a ever-shifting place, as if there's no objectivity but only a probability of finding a room in a particular spot. The Ocean View Hotel can be explained with entanglement. Spooky action on a distance, another weird thing about quantum mechanics where two or more particles can be connected outside of the bounds of spacetime, enabling faster than light communication. I think about entanglement in this case because it may or may not be a way to teleport stuff, and Jesse is literally teleporting to it, as if it were some kind of stop, or maybe a nexus, where you get to stop to choose your final destination among the many other entangled locations or universes. On the same line of thinking, also the control points allow teleportation. Now, if you are entangled to that particular wave, you are effectively part of the wave. There's no way to know any of your data like position and momentum without revealing the information of the wave you are entangled to. So one could just manifest somewhere else, basically wherever the wave reaches. Still on the control points, Dr. Ash confirms that he discovered them by following the energy lines spanning the oldest house, and finding their converging spots. Now we find parabolic antennas and other equipment that harmonize the control point to stabilize the oldest house and mitigate its shifting properties. Once again, this could be explained with quantum wave interactions. A wave powerful enough to partially collapse the oldest house base wave, forcing the building to behave in a more deterministic way, where deterministic is the opposite of probabilistic. Now think about Director Northmore. The guy is literally emitting radiation, and we know this because he's powering the oldest house. Radiation is ultimately a coverall name for all kind of quantum wave. We usually think of radiation as gamma rays and nuclear processes, but also radio waves are radiation. Light is radiation. Heat is a form of radiation. Once again, quantum waves, another quantum phenomena. Also, the guy has teleported once, and almost destroyed the oldest house in the process, so the quantum nature here is quite obvious. According to me, at the very least. Going back to the shifting quantum phenomena, an extremely striking example supporting my theory is the ashtray maze. A maze that shifts wildly unless you have a particular song, more waves, that makes it behave more linearly. Same idea as the control points. Something fundamentally uncertain as the mazes, corridors, and shifting rooms acquires a more deterministic behavior. On the same line of thinking, we can also mention the jukebox. It literally transports you to another dimension with music. Again, a wave. And since it is always the same song, you always sing to the same universe. To add to it, when the music stops, Jesse is teleported back to the jukebox, but people who died after teleportation are not brought back. Now, I know waves and particles imply matter in general and not living matter specifically, but by the logic of the game, after that your base wave is gone, so the entanglement needed for teleportation is broken. Hence, no corpses are teleported back. Guys, I can literally go on for hours here. Actually, you know what? Write in the comments if you have more examples. Let's rip this theory open, because I think we are on the right track here. Now, let's have a look at Alan Wake.
Listen, I found out all sorts of interesting stuff while I was digging around.
Alan Wake is a bit more difficult to link, as the nature of the dark presence and the dark place are really never explained. So we'll have to do some extra lifting to link this game to my theory. But don't worry, did I mention I am really smart? In Alan Wake, the light and the darkness can play by the same rules as the Hiss and the Hadron resonances. Light is indeed a wave, and the darkness is simple absence of said wave. So, in a way, light can cancel the darkness. Or, we could theorize the dark presence is a resonance that spread only in absence of light. At any rate, the same rules as before fully apply, wave interactions and all. In the Signal DLC, Alan is given his weapons presented as tools.
You will need weapons. It's not the light itself, but what it represents. You will need it. This is not a gun. It is a tool in a logical process of elimination.
The game clearly describes the tools in a way fitting with the idea of writing a story, and the process of rewriting reality inside a dark place. Now, if everything can be interpreted as wave interactions, we can speculate waves rewrite reality when they merge and cancel out. Keep in mind particles have no real presence in our reality until the waves that make them are measured or interact with another wave/particle. Similarly, Alan's reality in the dark place has no real shape until he measures it by experiencing it. The dark place shapes itself by interacting with Alan, so if we assume that Alan can modulate his base wave, the idea of the lighted reality can be simplified with wave A modifies wave B by constructive/deconstructive interference. The reason to be of those tools in particular might be just the way Alan visualizes these interactions with the dark presence base wave. Until then, Alan fought the dark presence with weapons and light, so it makes sense he would idealize and shape his wave into something similar in the dark place. Going back to the game, the enemies are people who were taken by the dark presence and shrouded in darkness. As I said, Alan Wake is a bit difficult to explain because pretty much nothing about the dark presence itself is ever explained, but by comparison with the Hiss, we can easily explain the taken phase as the dark present base wave adding up to the wave of the people he possesses, ultimately rewriting it partially or completely. Think of it, the enemies literally vanish upon defeat, and the same goes with Carl, Stucky and Rusty, which were real people. So something had to have rewritten their base wave. Also, we have a similar thing to control here. We see that Barbara Jagger can pretty much teleport, appearing off of darkness and disappearing into it. Same goes for the enemies, they just come out of every dark corner. If the presence inhabiting Barbara's body, and by extension all enemies in the game, is the same as the dark presence base wave, the Taken and Jagger can teleport anywhere along the wave, just like Jesse teleports from one control point to the other. So enemies coming out of thin air, and Barbara quickly poking her face into view in the darkness, are easily explained with entanglement and simple quantum wave probabilities. Of course, the probabilities of a dark presence attuned entity to spawn into reality are greater where the dark presence's base wave is more powerful, so in dark places devoid of light. Whether it or so many people believing that the cabin on Cauldron Lake had been somehow displaced in time to be present after the volcano claimed it, I think that the cabin is actually a manifestation of the interaction between the dark presence, Jagger, and Tom Zane. We know Zane had been touched by the dark presence in a similar way to Alan. Barbara had been taken and possessed by the dark presence, and we know that Tom and Barbara used to live in that cabin before the eruption. So, just like Alan creates his own reality in the dark place, I think the cabin Alan visits is actually the manifestation of the dark presence base wave after the interaction with Zane and Jagger, as if it incorporated their memories. This is further supported by the fact that the lake is the gate to the dark place itself, and it isn't a one-way system. Part of it has leaked into our universe and rewritten part of the lake, making the cabin real on our side of things as well.
Chapter 6. Powers Nature.
One more thing I can explain with my theory is the fundamental difference in the laws of physics among the different universes. By my theory, one of the conditions is that the law of physics cannot change between universes. I mean it in the short run, though. In the long run, if you also consider the quantum nature of the fields comprising reality, quantum variation may lead to branching universes with different rules. If we accept this as a possible explanation, we also need to embrace the idea of these universes being potentially way older than ours, and where life exists but in other forms. But we can also explain Jesse's levitation as anti-gravity, telekinesis as localized gravity, or maybe a electromagnetic field so powerful to be able to pull on the electrons themselves. In a similar twist, Alan can alter the energy of the photons coming out of his flashlight, making them more energetic. I can stir the reality base wave by synchronizing with it while he writes with his typewriter. This is the weird thing about changing the laws of physics. All depends on them. If you change them, you are changing nature itself. I can and I will also link Quantum Break to this. Unfortunately, having moved house and needing to sort quite a few things because, I'm a family guy, I didn't have the time to dig into that too. But off the top of my head, if in that universe time travel is possible, I can say that branch of reality has different physics laws from ours, and time travel would involve some kind of exotic energy, so another wave, which would, in theory, allow for extra-dimensional travel in a similar fashion to Alan's Dark Place Trolls and Jesse's Threshold adventures. I still cannot explain everything, of course. I still have Alan Wake 2 to discover, but this whole theory feels fitting enough to be at least quite close to the truth.
Chapter 7. Conclusion.
Well, subscribers and occasional viewers, this one is also done. The nature of the Remedyverse is quantum. Keep checking for the next one cause I'll get a little deeper. I've been Luca, it's been a pleasure. This was the nature of the Remedyverse on Giant's Grave Gaming. Bye everyone, have a nice one.